You know, when I was asked to do this, I was asked to speak about the idea of what I learned outside of school. And then I thought, I'm not the right person for this, because I went to a very good private school in the East Coast. I went to a famous college. I went to a graduate school. I came out here to the American Film Institute. And I've been teaching at the University of Southern California for 20 years. So the question is, what did I learn outside of school? Seems like most of my time has been spent in school. But I also realized that when some people come and ask me if they want to be filmmakers, should they go to film school, which is a common question. And I say what you really need is a mentor. You need somebody who knows something more about the subject you're interested in than you do, and somebody who's willing to spend time with you and hopefully inspire you. So that essentially is what a good teacher is, and there are lots of them in various institutions we have around the country that teach. And I thought about one of my own when I was in high school. This was a guy who had arthritic hands, and he used to throw erasers at us if we didn't pay attention. And he taught Latin. Now, those of you who understand Latin know that it's a dead language. Except for Harry Potter, you're not going to really hear lots of Latin phrases. And one of the things he taught about was a character named Aeneas. Aeneas was a superhero of his time. And he went on journeys with his friends, and one time their ship crashed. And they ended up on an island in which there was absolutely no food, no water, and there was no way to get away, and there were bugs that were stinging him. And he turned to his men and he said in Latin, "Forsan et haec olim meminissa juvabit." It's the only Latin phrase I remember. But I remember it because it translates that sometime in the future, you're going to recall what just happened, and it's going to be of use. So I thought about a journey of mine that I wanted to share. This journey started with a sweat lodge. I don't know if any of you know what that is, but sweat lodge has been around for thousands of years, and it's a process in which you go inside a very hot space, and you sweat a lot. And you sort of are purified beforehand because the object is to really face who you are. And the heat sort of makes you face who you are. You can't sort of lie in the heat. You have to tell the truth. And as I came out of this lodge, it was about the same time of year. It was very cold. It was up in the mountains, and I suddenly fell to the ground, and I couldn't move. Now, I thought it must be hypothermia, so I figured, okay, it's a big deal, you know. In a couple minutes, I'll be able to get my body going again. But a couple minutes passed, my body didn't go anywhere. I literally could not move. I couldn't feel my fingers. I couldn't feel my feet. I couldn't move at all. Not only that, but I realized I couldn't talk. I couldn't see. Everything started to get black and striated. I couldn't hear. I thought, I'm in big trouble. Tomorrow morning, I'm supposed to be at Fox Studios shooting a picture. I'm not going to be there. This is the end of my career. Hollywood director at Sweat Lodge doesn't show up. That's finished. That's the end of me as a Hollywood director. I'm finished with that. But then I thought, this is not getting any better. They'll call the paramedics, I'm sure, but the paramedics will take me somewhere, but I cannot see, I cannot hear, I cannot talk, I cannot move. When my family, when my wife and my daughter come to visit me, I'm not going to know they're there. They're not going to know I'm here. Communication is gone. Relationships are over. Now what? Well, my mind still was going on. I still was able to think, and I thought, wait a minute. What if I'm dying? What if that's what this is? Career gone, relationships gone, body gone. I may be dying. So I tried to do everything I could. I tried to hold on. There was nothing to hold on to, but sort of interiorly in my imagination, I tried to hold on to myself as much as I could. It's like holding your breath. If you all held your breath at this moment, for a certain length of time, you can hold on, but finally you can't. And I had to let go. And I did let go. And then a remarkable thing happened. I felt at incredible peace, incredible ease, amazing release. And I thought, whoa, is this what death is? Then I started to say, wait a minute, but I'm conscious. Well, if I'm conscious, I could think, what's going to happen next? Now, my parents told me there was no heaven or hell. I don't know about your parents. But when I was in school, I read about heaven and hell, you know, various books and various movies and various images I thought, what if there is a heaven and hell? And I hadn't been the best of all human beings, so I figured if there is, I'd probably end up going to hell, which is exactly where I went. I went to my version of hell. It's horrific. We don't have time to tell the story, but the point is I was in hell. But suddenly I realized in my own hell, I couldn't feel anything. My body was gone. This was all just imagined. Hell was merely an imagined idea. Like any idea, like a cloud. An idea is like a cloud. It'll change in a second if you let it go. And that second I let it go, and hell was gone. And then it went on what's called a classic near-death experience, in which many people have had these, sort of traveling through a kind of strange, grayish, cloudy space, and there were beings to my right and left. I didn't know they were dead relatives or guides or something like that. And then I had another revelation. All of a sudden, everything that I'd ever learned about, that is, if this Jeremy, this particular character, everything I'd ever learned about, all the history I'd ever learned, all the television, the 100,000 hours of television I'd ever seen, all the games I'd ever played, all the people I'd ever met, all the music I'd ever heard, all the movies I'd ever seen, they all happened instantaneously in a nanosecond. I saw everything that I knew. Everything in a nanosecond. Who created this? What was this? And I realized that too was an illusion. And as all history suddenly dissolved, I saw what was going to happen to me. What was going to happen to me, whoever I was now, I was about to become a piece of stardust. And I was in blissful ecstasy of perfection. I loved it. If there was love, to have love. It was an amazing, amazing moment of absolute joy and serenity. And then I realized that just to become a stardust, a piece of the stardust of the infinite, and all of a sudden the infinite came in on itself. Everything suddenly became nothing, and I lost consciousness. And then, like turning a movie backwards, ran screaming backwards from nothing to everything, heading down through the solar systems, and I was aware of, or whatever was aware, through the solar systems, down toward the planet Earth, down toward California, down to the Malibu Mountains, down to this strange body here on the ground. And I entered that body, and I returned to being Jeremy. And as I slowly began to sense of being able to move, feel cold, started to see a little bit, started to hear, I looked around, and I had the greatest feeling of love I've ever had. I loved every single human being I saw that were there. I loved the space we were in. I loved the cold that I felt. I loved the water. I loved the air. I loved everything around me. And I realized what an amazing miracle it is to actually be here right now and be alive. So the lessons of this journey for me: 1, consciousness did not end in death. 2, we are not just our bodies. We are not just our emotions. We are not just our thoughts. All of these change. We are the witness to all of that. And that witness is all of us as one being. We are all interconnected as one being with enormous possibilities to make a difference in making the world around us sustainable and sharing the love that in fact is right there. So, live and give. My last message to you is something I learned from my father, who learned from 2,000 years of history. Hillel said this: if you're not for yourself, who will be for you? But if you're only for yourself, what are you? And if not now, when? Thanks.